So the Remix Project is essentially a cultural incubator working with some of the most talented young people from across the city of Toronto. And we work in 3 academies. We work in the Academy of Creative Arts, so looking at illustrators, designers, photographers, videographers, etc., as well as the recording arts, so music artists, DJs, producers, engineers, and then of course the art of business, the business of arts and cultural industries, which is also equally important to focus on, looking at the business of music, the business of street fashion, the business of PR and events, and finally the business of athletics is something new that we just started this year. And essentially the Remix Project is focused on this idea of learning through passion. It's a passion-based approach, talking to young people about what do you already care about, what are you into already, what do you want to do, and then taking that idea, taking what they want to do, and then saying, okay, let's do this together, let's work on this together. And then what we do is project-based learning. So basically what we'll do is we'd start, and let's say a young person wants to come out with a clothing line. So we go, okay, if you're going to drop a clothing line, for example, this sweater is something that one of the young people made in the program, then we say, okay, we got to do this, and this to get there. And what we'll do is we'll lay out basically a work back schedule from the finale, from the end goal, the completion, all the way back to the beginning, starting with small manageable goals, and then working with that young person through the process to get to where they want to be, whether that's dropping a clothing line, putting out a music album, or trying to enter into college or university as a photographer or what have you. It's always dependent on the young person. There's no one-size-fits-all approach, but rather we understand the individuality of the people that we're working with, and we work from that place. So basically the program works in a 9-month semester. What we do is a young person will apply to get in, and they go through a pretty rigorous process. They go through an application and then an interview. But once that young person is successful in getting into the program, then we say, okay, that first month is just getting to know each other. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? But also, what have been your roadblocks so far? What have been the glass ceilings? And what we do is we try to really take all of this into account, into effect, and personalize a learning plan. Personalize the plan that a young person is going to use to find success through their journey with us. And so basically, they're linked up with industry mentors, with program leaders. They have the space that they're able to use, and in the space itself, it's kind of amazing. We have 5,000 square feet. There's a full recording studio, a graphic design lab, a photography studio, a business incubation center, all set up for young people to have full access to the proper tools and the equipment that they need to find success along their journey or along their path. But it's always a self-directed thing. It always comes from the place of individual passion and then project-based learning as we go. At the end of this program, so after you've done the 9 months, we focus on 3 exit strategies. And those exit strategies are broken down over education, workforce, and entrepreneurship. And what that means for us is, with education, we actually have a partnership program with the Toronto District School Board, so with the actual formal education system, where young people can earn up to 4 credits to enter back into school if they've dropped out, and use it as a bridging tool to get back in. Or to complete high school. If you only need a couple credits left, you can actually complete your education with us at the Remix Project through this partnership with the Toronto District School Board. Also, we have a program with the Humber College, which is one of the big colleges in the city, where we can give scholarships for the first year only to 3 graduates that come out of the program each time. So that's education. Workforce for us, obviously we can't guarantee a job, but what we've gotten very good at is finding internships for folks to go either at MTV, Universal Music Canada, or any of these kind of really great mom and pop cultural industries that have popped up, whether they're clothing stores, whether they're styling, wardrobe styling, or what have you. So that's workforce, and then finally entrepreneurship is the third side. And of course entrepreneurship is related to workforce, but for what we do, we keep it separate. And that's what the majority of young people want, is to start their own business, to become their own boss usually. And so whether that's helping somebody get their business plan and marketing plan together to launch their clothing, their music, their photography portfolio, whatever the case may be, we basically work with that young person to, again, identify what it is they want for themselves and then work through that process as a team. So on this adventure down to Mexico City, I was actually brought here by the Laboratorio para la Ciudad, the laboratory for the city. And what we're doing is we're looking at the intersections of creativity, culture, and urban development. And on this journey, I was actually really fortunate to be joined by a good friend of mine. He's an alumni from the program and one of my favorite visual artists, PAVEL, IOUDINE. And so he's here today. We're going to talk a little bit about his work as well and what he's up to. So, Pat. King, but really.
Yeah. That was my my first introduction into everything. I was making a little bit of money airbrushing T-shirts. That was my main thing at the time. And I remember you gave me it was actually the first real paying job at the time, and I couldn't believe it. And airbrushing at the festival. And then what I always remember is that was the first time you were telling me about the idea of the remix project, and it sounded so crazy to me, like such a big idea.
Right.
I was like, man, this guy's like a dreamer. Such grand ideas, and then to see it come, not only as you described it, but become way bigger than your initial idea, which I thought was crazy how big it was. Yeah. That was. I mean,
for me, like where it always came from was community as well, right? Like that's something that I talk about a lot. But it was always like, if I had an idea, I would have to listen as well to the folks around me, being like, so what do you want to see? What do you want to do? Because it couldn't just come from me. Like one lesson that I learned was like, if it's going to be for the community, it should be of the community. So it was really about getting the feedback of other folks, like our peers and younger cats than us, about what they wanted to see and what the roadblocks were, before they got into it. But talk to me a little bit about, if you don't mind, like your own kind of journey as an artist. Like how did you first even discover your talents as a painter and as a writer?
Oh, for me it was just my cousin. She drew better Ninja Turtles than me because she was a couple years older, and I couldn't really draw at the time, and I'm just like, man, I'm gonna draw a better Ninja Turtle than you. And my family was into art. My dad is an antique dealer, and but he actually didn't like the kind of art that I did, because this was in Russia, in like '94, and they didn't like the Western American pop culture. They thought it was trash. So they actually didn't like it at all. They liked that I drew, but they didn't like the stuff that
you're choosing to do.
Yeah.
And what spoke to you about that? Like, why did you choose to draw Ninja Turtles instead of Russian folklore?
It's something, because it was so new, because I was like, that was right after the fall of the Soviet Union, so all that stuff started coming in, and it's something so different. So you grew up on like Russian folklore and all this stuff. When you see something that's so different, like the first time I seen Spider-Man, I remember that so much. So it's always these kind of like, and nowadays I find you're not as excited about discovering a lot of things, because there's so much and there's so much to discover. So nowadays, actually, I find myself, I'm going backwards, back to those things that did make me, that did really speak out to me at first.
That's dope. That's really interesting. So how did you start going? Because from pen and pad, or from markers and pad, and then deciding to pick up the airbrush, like what prompted that idea?
Yeah, and it was actually because I had I had a great art teacher. That's why I learned a lot of my skills, like out of school. He was almost like my grandfather, and he taught me like everything, taught me like oil painting, sculpture, like design, typography even. And but yeah, I'd always bug him, like, teach me the airbrush, and he always said, you're not ready. And so it was after I actually stopped going to him, because he became older, and he said I gotta move on and do it on my own now.
Right. So I just want you to talk to us a little bit about MONYAK, about the brand you've been developing on your own and just for creative project.
So yeah, MONYAK is a brand, is a way to kind of put out products, really.
Yeah.
And it could be from T-shirts, clothing, to anything else. What MONYAK means, it means maniac, but it's in Russia how they kind of all languages adapt English words and kind of make it their own, and so it's bringing it back. So in Russian it's manyak, but you can't really quite spell that in English, and people wouldn't be able to pronounce it. So it becomes, it becomes like an English version of the Russian version of the English word. Right. So it's this idea of this kind of like maniac traveling through, like being
constantly
influenced
between worlds.
Exactly. Yeah, constantly between worlds, traveling between cultures, and being influenced by it all. And
so I want you to talk to me a little bit about this idea that you've been working with other recording artists and other creatives in the city, and some of the art that you've been doing lately. What's inspired you?
Cool. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of cover arts for a lot of different artists. The one that has me most excited right now is the Birthday Boy Colors EP, and for that cover, it's like these three girls. It's kind of like Sex in the City kind of new age girls, but it's very like Japanese influence, very like but very like the kind of like current fashion, right, street styles, and it's it's kind of, but it's also very like crazy and over the top and layered and very like kind of internet aesthetic as well, and
I think that it is really exciting to me, and I thought it was really interesting. And one of the reasons why I wanted you to see this space with the museum so much was the idea of the bootleg stuff too, right?
Yeah,
and
we're
this
talking
idea
about
of like bootleg culture and how it starts to replicate and what happens to it.
And that's another thing, like the MONYAK idea of it, like kind of between worlds. I really love it when cultures they take something, like say different cultures will take many like American like pop culture things, but they will kind of they don't really understand it, so they will kind of redo it in their own way,
right?
And it becomes this entirely new thing, and that's what really interests me.
Right. And I think that's one of the things that's most exciting about this space, and why I wanted you to see the museum here was because like you walk around and you start to see all these incredible different stimuli and different things that exist, and like you were saying, like how people have repurposed them into their own.
Yeah, and I love how it's like you see the Japanese influence, the Mexican influence, the American influence. There's so many in one place. It's really amazing and inspiring. I'd love to bring some of it back to Canada with us.
Definitely. And I think that is, like we said, constantly between worlds. That's what it comes down to. But it's about building bridges through culture, and whether that's toys, whether that's visual art, whether it's music or whatnot. When I was coming here to Mexico City, I'm here for this residency, as you know, with the laboratory. And one of the first things they said when I got here is like, have you heard of the toy museum?
Oh, wow.
Like, you need to know about the toy museum. You need to know about these cats, and especially Roberto as a curator as well. It's just, I think it's really interesting that a space like this has become almost an embassy for authentic Mexican culture.
Yeah, and because it's the toys, but it's also the murals, the memorabilia, everything about it.
It's a wonderland.
Definitely.
All right, man. Well, thank you, Pav.
All right. Thanks for having me again.